Okay, here's a quick video about the sine law and the cosine law. So these two formulas can be used to find missing sides and angles of triangles that don't contain a 90-degree angle. So like this triangle right here, none of these angles are 90 degrees, so we can use either the sine law or the cosine law to help us find missing sides and angles. So just a quick reminder about how to label sides. So we label the angle with capital letters. So if this is angle A right here, then side A is directly across from it. This is angle B here, then side B is directly across from it. And if this is side C, then side C is directly across from it. So all of the lowercase letters are representing the side lengths, and all of the capital letters represent angles. Okay, and then the cosine law looks like this. A squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2 times b times c times cos A. So these things are all being multiplied by each other, and you need to multiply those things before you can add and subtract the other things. And we can also rearrange this formula to isolate cos A. So we can actually move the b squared and the c squared on the other side, so it becomes, sorry, my pens aren't really working too good. So it becomes a squared a squared minus b squared minus c squared divided by, and then we divide the whole thing by negative 2bc. But sometimes you might see, so that's what cos A equals, but then you might also see that written as b squared plus c squared minus a squared divided by 2bc. So both are the same exact formula, it's just we isolated a negative one so that the formula has no negative on the bottom. So yeah, this formula here is equal to cos A. But the blue and the yellow formulas are actually identical. They're just rearranged. So it's helpful to know both, or to be able to rearrange it, because the little letter lets us solve for the missing side, whereas the capital lets us solve for the missing angle. Okay, here's an example. So we want to find, I don't know, missing sides and angles in this thing. So let's start with, say we wanted to find this missing angle. Well, we know all angles in a triangle add to 180, so we could actually pretty quickly figure that out just by subtracting 180, 72, and 55 from 180. So that gives us 53. So we know this angle right here is 53 degrees. And then let's say we wanted to find a missing side. So whichever one you want to find. So let's just label our triangle A, B, C. So this would be side A, side B, and side C. So let's say we wanted to find side A. I'm thinking I can do the sine law because a giveaway is if I look at what's directly across from each other, there's an angle and a side that are directly across from each other, which is good. And then I know my other two angles. So if I'm trying to figure out if sine law is going to work out, I know I have to have one completed ratio. So if I'm trying to find side A, then I'm going to use side B and angle B to help me. So I'm just going to use these two ratios. A over sine A equals B over sine B. So I'm going to sub in, okay, I don't know what side A is, and angle A is 72, side B is 23, and angle B is 55. And then once I've subbed all of that stuff in, I want to get A alone. So I want to get this guy alone. So I have to get rid of that sine 72. And since it's in the denominator, if I just multiply both sides by sine 72, multiply this side by sine 72, then these guys will end up canceling out. And I'll just be left with A equals 23 sine 72 over sine 55. So 23 sine 72 over sine 55. And if I use my calculator to figure out what that is, it's about 26.7 meters. So that's how long side A is. So that's the sine law. And here's another triangle. So we have 10-degree angle right here. And then we have two sides. So right away I know this is going to be cosine law because the two cases where I use cosine law are if I know the angle in between two sides, then I know I can use cosine law, or if I know all three sides of my triangle, I can also use cosine law. For every other case, I'm going to use sine law. Okay, so let's label this guy. So we'll call this side A, or sorry, that angle A, so that's side A, angle B, side B, angle C, side C. And we'll set up our cosine law. So if I just use my formula for cosine law, A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2BC times cos A. I know right away that I'm not going to be able to solve for angle B or C just yet. I can tell by the formula that in order to solve for an angle, I have to know what all three sides are. All three of these sides are in the formula. So if I want to solve for an angle, I have to know all three of them before I can actually solve it. Okay. So I'm going to just solve for side A. So A squared equals 16 squared plus 15 squared minus 2 times 16 times 15 times cos of 10 degrees. And you can actually punch that entire thing into your calculator at one time, because that way, I don't know, there's less room for error. So if I punch all of that into my calculator, I get A squared is equal to 8.3. And since I have A squared, I want to get A, so I need to square root 8.3, which is 2.9. So that's the length of my side, 2.9. So now that I know all three sides in my triangle, so I know 15, 16, and 2.9. So now that I know all those sides, I could calculate a missing angle if I want to with cosine law. So let's try that. Okay. I'm just going to do it up in this corner. Okay, so if I wanted to find a missing angle with cosine law, say I want to find angle B, I'm just going to use my formula. Just going to rearrange it. Cos B equals C squared plus A squared minus B squared divided by 2AC. So you should notice patterns in the formula. So like when I'm trying to find angle B, the only B that appears in my formula is this guy right here. All the other sides are C and A. So if I actually wanted a formula for cos C, I know I could do B squared plus A squared minus C squared divided by 2AB. So because I'm trying to find angle C, that's the only place C appears. So you can just rearrange the letters to find whatever you need. Once you see the patterns, it's easy to do that. Okay. Sorry, just erasing that. Okay, so if we sub everything into our red formula there. Oops, it's still deleting. Okay. Shoot. Okay, back on track. So if we sub in A, C, and B into our formula, so A was 2.9 squared plus 15 squared minus 16 squared, and the whole thing is divided by 2 times 2.9 times 15. So if we plug that all into a calculator, okay, you get negative 0.259655, etc. And since that's what cos B looks like, or equals cos B, we have to still figure out what B equals. So I'm just going to write it over here. So therefore B is going to equal cos negative 1 of negative 0.25 whatever. So if you use your calculator, you have to hit the second cos button or shift or whatever button you have. So angle B ends up equaling 105 degrees. And then we can get the other angle by just doing 180 minus everything.